here, one of the founders. We were going to do 2 groups, but there's only really me to show you around because I thought someone else was going to be here, but they've gone. So I don't know if you want to do, either I could take one group at a time, or we could just try and do it as a full group. Or Tom, is Tom still there? No. Tommy? He's out the back. Tommy, I mean, Tom could do a tour. Would you fancy it?
Yeah.
And then whatever he tells you, I'll put the facts right there. You know the basics, right?
Yeah.
Should we, it's up to you. I mean, we can either try and do it as one, but it might be a bit cramped in some of the areas.
That's right. I think, based on what we looked at before, I think smaller would be better.
Yeah, it would be better,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. Is Alex later?
I can double check.
I think his car's here, isn't it? So.
Yeah. He does all the talking anyway. So.
Oh, I'll tell you what, try and get Clancy for the galvanics.
Oh yeah, it's a good show.
Does he know?
Yeah, he knows all the inside of it.
Cool. Well, I don't know, do you want to just split into 2? I don't know how we're going to do it, but there we go.
So this is not open and available?
Yeah, like singing to a camp. Like officially it's not officially open to the public, but it's not closed to it either. Like often if you start at work and you can hear a band belting it out in here. But yeah, you have some good nights. Yeah. There's some late nights in here as well. Yeah. We've took our tour a bit backwards. We started with the metal work and have worked our way up to you. So I was trying to explain that this is the lovely lathe. You are our magic master.
I think it makes more sense. I don't want to bust your bubble, but if we start next door.
Yes.
Basically, there's our mastering suite, which is where we do all critical listening. Every job that we are going to cut in-house is get checked in here first. If we think there are problems in terms of having it cut properly, we contact the client. If we have to do a bit of massaging, so to speak, to get it on wax properly, we just do it. Most of the time we do it because we know our lathe, so we know how we can just basically get the best out of it. And so the flat cut, the so-called flat cut, doesn't really exist, or at least it does, but we like it to get the most out of every project. So if you flat a cut, then you don't listen back, and then you don't check what can be improved, and then you act upon. I don't think you do a bit of a disservice to the client. So what we're doing, we go in there, we do a flat cut, we come back here, we check the actual lacquer, and then we make assessment on what to do next. And then we go back in there, we do another test cut based on the observation that we have in here, and then normally, is good to go. And then we go for the full cut. So, because the problem of lacquers, you can't listen back. So, if you listen back, because it's so fragile, so delicate material, the stylus, which is very hard, sapphire, is gonna, on the first one you might not notice much, but it will change the sound of the lacquer, and then by the second time you do it, it's just basically wasted. So you cut it, and then it has to go in the fridge to avoid what it's like the same stuff that you put on nail varnish, that sort of, but it's like it's been cured. Okay, so if you take a bottle of nail varnish, you throw it on the table, you leave it there for a month, they come back solid. So this is what these aluminium discs are coated with. But it's got a memory, so if you cut it and you don't slow the reformation of the grooves, because you have a metal that cuts into the grooves, and then it just separates the molecules of the nitrocellulose. But what happens after a couple of hours has a tendency to move a bit towards the initial, by inertia I think. So if you put it in the fridge, you slow that process. So that is the other advantage of having the cutting studio and the cutting room in the pressing plant. so there is no courier involved. So you stop that process immediately. You put it in the fridge, and then it's waiting to be scheduled for galvanics. So no triangulation and no delivery. It's even, I don't know, I guess it's greener and more eco-friendly because you have less journeys. So it starts in here, goes in that room, goes downstairs, and goes into the presses. So it doesn't travel far.
When the original comes into you, what format's it in? Is it a tape or a file? Or
no, they are all digital.
Digital.
Yeah, they're all digital. We are gonna have tapes towards the end of the year. It's gonna be just 1/4 inch, not 1/2 inch. But to be honest,
people say they like vinyl because it's all analog. In fact, the music starts off as a digital recording before it gets.
Well, I say
the
the
vinyl.
secrets if you don't tell anybody. The lathe needs to have 4 channels, not only 2. Obviously 2, the stereo one, is the one that are going to drive the needle, but the other 2 are telling the lathe what's coming. So the lathe knows how to pack the grooves better. Okay?
So the grooves aren't all the same spacing?
No. The grooves are like, yeah.
It spreads them
The
out.
grooves, if you look at the microscope, they look like, I don't know, worms. They wiggle, okay? But the way they wiggle, the lathe knows how to shoehorn these bendy lines so they can use less space. But in order to do that, it needs to know up front what's coming. Half a revolution, so 900 milliseconds. So you need to have a set of 2 channels per the modulation, which goes to the cutting head, and the preview that goes to what's called computer, that's in charge of packing the grooves. That is the bigger kicker. Many studios, instead of having, like we do, like a 4 channels console, so the console that you're going to see next door is a 4 channels, although it looks like a stereo console, it's got 4 channels. And then everything you do is not affecting just the stereo channel, but it's affecting all 4 channels. So it's all pristine till they leave the DA stage and goes into the preamps. But in the old days, and still many people do, to avoid having the expense of having a 4 channel console, they go for a stereo one, and then they go out and go into a digital delay. Okay, and they delay the signal by 100 milliseconds. But the problem is the one that goes on wax is not the good one. It's not the original one. Is the decoded
It's the
digital
delayed
one.
yeah.
And most of the time they use like a Lexicon 500. Even if you get records from the late 80s, 90s, fat chance is that what you've got on record, even if it was from tape, is the digitized version of a chip delay. And then we wanted to avoid that like all costs, so we went all out. Obviously it's twice more expensive to organize that, and it's a bit more fiddly in terms of workflow. But that is the only way to just make sure that you don't waste the best signal just for the preview, but you use the best signal actually for going on to wax. But obviously, you know, there are costs. And so to answer your question, yes, even if it was originally from tape, and they say that it went straight on vinyl,
It still went through a digital delay, probably.
yeah. Not many people know that. And then they put the AAA, but no. There is a chip delay on the line. And then the reason is, oh, nobody is not going to notice. But yeah, okay. That's debatable. So, yes. So we do, if it needs mastering, we do the mastering here. If it doesn't need mastering, it's already been mastered. We just basically analyze what we need to do in order to have the best optimal cut next door. And then once we do back and forth, normally just a couple of times, then we go for the full cut and then we send it to galvanics. This room is particular. I don't know if they've been told the story about this room. This room is not supposed to be here. It's just crazy. It's just bonkers. The reason is because A, you are in a factory, and 2, you are on the first floor. So normally you don't build a studio on the first floor, just because planking, the mechanical and structural vibrations. But the way why we did it is because of logistics, and so we built a big mezzanine and then we build the studio on top, knowing full well that could go terribly wrong, because every time you embark yourself in this type of projects, it's just as good as the weakest link. So you an oversight, and then you throw everything down the bin. The beauty about doing that is we had a blank canvas, really. So the ratio of this room is perfect. So you have a wide sweet spot, is what you call. Sweet spot in audio is the area in the studio where the frequency range is pretty much flat. It doesn't really vary much. Some studios, you have to sit here, and if you move like that, everything changes, so you have to stay there the whole time. In here, you're free to move around. Even if you're on the sofa, you still have a very good clue about what's going on. And it's all because of the golden ratio that we use. So we got quite high ceilings, it's quite wide, it's quite roomy. And the sound doesn't get compressed too much, even at high volume. So you have a lot of dynamic, you have a lot of details. We have full range monitoring from a company that is in Holland. That is, these are the highest tech speakers that you can buy at the moment. They're completely DSP driven, all Class D preamplifiers. And the beauty is that you can even run software on it. They're the first speakers that you can do that. So a guy on the University of Princeton just released a software called Bach, which he aimed to remove the cross modulation and crosstalk between the two speakers. And you can run the plugin straight from the speakers. So the speakers run the plugin.
You see, I find interesting the you dumping in the ceiling is different to that end.
Yeah, there is nothing straight in the ceiling, obviously. And the walls. You always try to create angles, because the walls that you can have in acoustics is like parallel surfaces. Because when you have parallel surfaces, the sound it kind of reinforces itself. So you need to shape the room in a way that the sound bounces off in a certain way. So we built the room rectangular, actually, because we could determine the room modes up front. If you do a structure like that from get-go, you can't really predict the room modes in a what's the word? Not preemptive. Sorry, it's 13 hours. You cannot really predict how the standing waves and the rumors of the room are going to interact. So if you do a rectangular shape, you can with mathematical modeling on computers, and then you build the actual shape of the room with moving wall that once they're anchored, that's that, and then you're doing a lot of testing acoustic with microphones and software, and then you see where the weakest point of the room are, and then you make your assessment accordingly, and then step by step you get to a point where you say, "Oh, okay, sounds good, so better stop." It didn't take us too long, to be honest, to get a very good acoustic, because we had the opportunity or the luxury to start from scratch, having the best ratio between height, width, and length of the room. So there are not many. I think this room, it has to be probably the best sounding room in the whole of North of England. There are not many studios that have a room that sounds this good.
Is that your opinion or someone else's?
Everybody that's been here has been amazed about the. But I've been doing mastering for 20 years, so I think you can take my. Trust is a big thing, it's a big thing.
I trust you.
And the beauty about this speaker is that they just shoot forward, and the reason why the sound just comes forward is just a lot of clever stuff that is inside. But if you look at the speaker from the top, you just basically see a circle in front, or a card. Yeah.
Can we have a blast?
A what? Everything is off, unfortunately. Yeah. I was literally going home, and then you came here.
I don't know.
Yes.
Why can't you do 14 hours if you don't feel it?
I'll give you my wife's phone number.
I'm not gonna say I need it.
And that's pretty much it. A lot of people, they ask me about the plants, if they're fake, if they're not. And then the following question is how they can survive. There are special plants. They originally grow in the undergrowth of the jungle, so they are not used to have a lot of sun and light at all. And they are. I found out that a lot of studios they have them, but originally I read this article where this where the plants that the first astronauts took with them in I think it was the space shuttle or the space station. I don't remember which one of the two. For the main reason that they don't need sunlight, and the main role of these plants is to purify the air. So all the nastiness created by electrical equipment and the ionization of the air is taken care of by the plants. They are like sponges that they filter the air in a natural way, and then so they are quite handy to have in the studio. You probably find it in a lot of commercial studios. And they're impossible to kill. So which suits me because I don't have green thumbs at all.
I think my wife could kill them.
I think if you give it a good go, I don't know, I might succeed, but they don't grow much. I used to have, because originally this studio was done in London, in Battersea. I still have the studio down in London, but it's not a mastering studio anymore. All the mastering operations have been moved up here. The reason is to help Press On Vinyl with the QC process and the cutting, actually. But the one I had in London, it grew over a few years. It grew like twice the size. That's 3 years old. They didn't grow an inch. So I might start to suspect maybe it's fake. I don't know.
You need a bigger pot.
I don't know what it is. No, the other one really used to grow a lot. I mean, it just trebled in size in a few years, and even that one is not showing sign of improving. So maybe it's the music I'm playing.
You've got to talk nicely to them.
Yeah. Classical music they like.
But yes, the studio originally was done in London. It's a Swift mastering. We've been doing mastering for 20 years. And then when I met the guys here, because my wife, she's from Middlesbrough originally, but we've been down in London for 25 years. And when I found out that they were doing this crazy thing with vinyl and cutting, I just basically said, so we moved. We are uprooted up here. And yeah, but these are not the original plants. I bought them here. The original plant I gave it to the receptionist down in London. Maybe I should get them back. Anyway, next door.
Yes. Pile straight in there. That's it.
Like I'm going to sit in this chair, man. These are absolutely cream crappy.
Sorry about the mess, but
This is not messy, believe me.
so this is the lathe. It's 1979 InstMC. There are only 300 left in the world. Reason being is because when CD came about, a lot of labels and pressing plant they throw in the skip because thought there was game over. But the rave scene, the DJ scene, the hip hop scene kept vinyl alive until the big resurgence started 15 years ago, year on year and year. Now we are, well, it is pretty much mainstream again. If you see new artists on television presenting their new album, normally they have the vinyl because it's bigger. So the CD doesn't look the part anymore. Nobody wants to go on television with a CD.
It looked good 20 years ago. It was high tech.
Yeah.
But I think I was seeing my loft has got boxes of vinyls in.
But finally, something that I don't know, it feels more satisfactory, you know, to have in your hands, and it sounds better, but not for the reason that a lot of people think. You know, it's just because of the process of mastering that goes into cutting a record is different from the one that is for streaming or CD or digital in general. So yes, it's the 1979 Neumann VMS-80, and we got it from a studio down in London, in Fulham. That's been going since 1987. So I don't know if this lathe was there from the beginning or was in another studio before. Nobody knows. We know that it's been in Fulham since 1987, and so 1987. So it's about 40 years it's been in London, and then we come about. They don't come up on the markets very often, and when they do, they really literally are gonna snap in a couple of days. But the guys down in London that were selling, they had two of them. One went to Belgium within 48 hours. They liked the idea of what Press On Vinyl stood for, the fact that we're trying to have indie labels and indie artists, and they held on for a while until we got our finance sorted, and they wanted to for the lathe to stay in the UK. They didn't want for the lathe to go somewhere else. And the lovely soul, which is Pete Norman, which is a fantastic cutting engineer, which has been cutting for 50 years and did a lot from Led Zeppelin to AC/DC, Miles Davis, Aretha Franklin, which you're going to see his picture out on this wall on the other side. Right. Yeah. He was the one that kind of was instrumental on for us having the lathe, and then he came up here free of charge to teach us how to use it for a week. And then we are best mates. He's on speed dial because every time something Pete, he said, okay, tell me what's going on. I say, okay, sit down please. Yes, as I said, this was a fantastic human being, and oh, somebody's at the door, sorry, that's my... And he helped us a lot, because the other guy that is doing the maintenance, problem with this machine is like people don't know how to maintain this machine to the core. It's they're very rare, far and few in between, and they charge an arm and a leg because they can. So having somebody that is giving us like a first aid whenever we need has been pivotal. Otherwise it would have been impossible for us to do this, because it's a very expensive machine. It's so delicate, and there are so many things that can go wrong. I can't even, probably if I start to allocate every single thing that can go wrong, we're still here tomorrow morning. And the permutations of these problems, and one can be masked by another issue, which is lurking right in one of the numerous cards that you see in these modules, and you need to know what each card does and the workflow of the whole machine, and to pinpoint and troubleshoot what's going on. I can do that, but once I stop to where the problem is and I look at like a circuitry of that 50 years old, I really need to call the expert in and say, well, have you got a suggestion of what we can do? And then sometimes they're unexpected. I mean, I went on holiday in August. The guys decided to turn the machines off while I was away, and then came back, turned the machine on, boom, the right channel was gone. And then I have to rush down to London to meet with a guy that had a spare one, and then he traveled to Italy. Well, he lives in Italy, although he's an English gentleman. He went to Italy with this guy called Roberto, who lives in Bologna, and he's one of the few, was one of the two in Europe that knows how to service the cutting head, which is this little fellow there. Yeah. The other one is a Swiss gentleman that lives in the Alps, the Swiss Alps, called Flo, and nobody can get hold of him because he likes hiking and he doesn't like technology. So if you are really needed to get hold of him, you have to go to Switzerland and wait for him to come back from
Do
the
you
mountains.
mean there's no network in the Alps?
No, even if there is, he doesn't like it. So he doesn't like an email, doesn't like a phone call. It's a big, but he was taken under the wing of Georg Neumann long time ago, before Neumann and the Berlin Wall fell down, and he knows exactly how the whole thing works, and he developed his own alternatives, so to speak. So there is just him and this guy in Bologna. If something goes wrong, you have to get hold of. And then when that happened, Roberto was on a beach. I said, I'm on holiday, mate.
How many of those cutting tables are in the UK?
How many cutting? What?
How many layers?
Layers.
There are 300 in the world. In
Right.
the UK,
Is
of
that
the
all?
MS-80, I think probably 10.
10.
Yeah, a lot of, somebody told me, a lot of this lathe has been bought by Scientology. And the reason is because they don't trust technology. And all the big meetings and the all big conventions, they record straight to lathe, because they say digital technology, if it fails, then you can't play back. So they bought a lot of those to record their own stuff. So I don't know.
What happens when these
These
two
two guys
gentlemen you
died.
rely on to maintain the thing, when they disappear?
Exactly. There is a guy in Italy called Alessandro, which is a beautiful being that built this transfer console for us, which is an incredible piece of kit. They're trying to get him and Roberto to meet, because he's very, very clever, but he's never done vinyl, but he's doing microphones. So he knows how to wind up coils, and which is the most difficult part. When something goes wrong, you have to rebuild the coil of inside of the cutting head, which you have 4 coils, 2 for the left and right, which is not really left and right, it's mid-side, and the other 2, the feedback is what the coil sends back as a preview. So if I press something here, just a quick one. Yeah. So this is the input, so it comes from the computer into the converters, into the transfer console. Then if I press here, obviously with the right setting, okay. So that is what is coming out, and that is what coming back from the lathe. This signal is generated by the cutting head, and acts like a microphone. It picks up the movement of the. Basically, you have this push and pull, of electricity. It moves the sides left and right and up and down, so to create that canyon kind of a V-shaped type of grooves. And what we're listening is the lathe telling us what you're gonna have on record. Not precisely, because it's not the actual cut; it's just a preview that the cutting head behavior. It's a bit complicated, but so yeah, but basically it's a microphone, and then you need to wind up the coil. So when something goes wrong or it goes poof, you need somebody that is be able to reconstruct the coil. And the 2 coils, one for the cutting head and one for the preview, they're glued together. In actual fact, 80% of the element of that cutting head is glued. So when it gets too hot,
What's the other head in here?
oh, that's just that's for just playback.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just a standard.
Yeah.
pickup arm.
Yes. You can put a wood tone arm. I think we got an SME there with a Super Truck cartridge. I think we just use it for calibrating. Yeah, just sideways to make sure that what you're recording, what you're sending out is what you get back. But normally I go in the other room and check on the other turntable. So yes, it's glued. So when you cut too hot or too loud, then there is a lot of high frequencies. The needle has to move incredibly quick and incredibly powerfully, and it creates friction. Friction creates heat. The whole head gets heated up. You have here a gauge to check the temperature. If it goes too hot, then the whole thing can fail because it's glued together. So you have to be careful. But that's one of the 100,000 things that can go wrong. Never mind that you got a canister here that looks like an exploded World War II bomb next to it. And it's highly flammable. The whole thing can catch fire very easily when you're cutting a record because it's nitrocellulose, so it's highly, highly flammable.
I was going to say that you got a high-tech technology and an old gas bottle.
Yes, it's the only one. Apparently helium is quite difficult to get hold on. And then we had these guys that were coming to set the lathe up. We needed, normally there are smaller cans at this height. But when we said to Danny, we need he came back with this. And but we're not going to run out anytime soon.
No, you won't.
But the helium is important to avoid for the cutting head to overheat. So when the cutting head gets hot, the helium cools it down. So, but again, if the equilibrium comes to fail, then the whole thing can literally catch fire. So
you don't come outside the McDonald's dog then.
And then that is a very simple principle, but very complicated in terms of keep on top of it, because a lot of things there can go wrong. And that you got, I think, is roughly about 500 or 600 transistors on just the preamps alone. Yeah. And some of them, half of them, they're not in production anymore. So if something goes wrong, you need to go for, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah. And not just one card only has 112 on one card. And then they've got 8 cards each, so 16 cards. But not the first 4 that are just mainly push-pull preamps. The one that's complicated is the V card, that was in charge of the feedback for the amplification, and then you got the what we call sub modules, which are the one in charge of the array curve, which is, you don't know what it is that stuff that when you plug the turntable not in the funnels but in the CD input sounds horrible. So it's just an EQ that gets applied while you're cutting, and then the inverse gets applied when you're playing back. So that's why you need to absolutely plug the turntable into the funnel input. Only the funnel input, because the funnel input will restore the equilibrium. And the reason why it does that, because bass takes a lot of space. So if you would cut without cutting the bass, then you will have less music available on one side. So if you cut the bass, you boost the top while you're cutting, then when you're playing back, you boost the bass and you cut the top. So you should go back pretty much on a flat frequency response, and you can have more music per side. And that's in principle, but it always sounds slightly on the brighter side than the input, kind of, and warmer, so there is a bit more bass and a bit more top, which I think a lot of people find pleasing listening to vinyl than digital.
Very much so.
How many problems have you had since you bought this?
Where do I start? Just today I was cutting, and all of a sudden it sounds too bright, and I was cutting a dance tune in mono, and then the top about 5k was out of phase. You can tell immediately, there's something.
I'm just thinking, these people who maintain it, or the few people who can maintain it,
they make
they must charge
Yes, they do.
a lot of money.
The one lives on an island. I'm not saying where, but it's a very expensive part of the world. So.
And they don't have apprentices learning how to do it.
No, they tend not to be too
generous,
forward-reaching in sharing their knowledge. Although, if you're a client, so you just basically pay them, they have to babysit you, so to speak.
But they've got to pass that knowledge on somehow.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually, yes, but then they're not that interested at the moment. Because they can charge a hefty price tag because of the fire fee in between. I mean, kudos to them, it's not easy to gain that deep knowledge that's required, for maintaining these machines. So I think in every profession you have the one that knows his onions, and then if
The
you
same
do,
is true in a lot of other industries. Your heavy
exactly.
equipment, your steam turbines and stuff. There'll be
Exactly.
one or two guys who've been maintaining these 50 years. There's still plenty in service. No new guys coming up, and they're like gold dust to get hold of if something goes wrong.
Eventually, I think, I don't know, maybe with a bit of luck, we'll pass them on.
If that acts in, that's no more new business. Then all you can do is press what you've already cut. You can't cut any new.
What do you mean?
Well, if that conks out and you can't fix it. The factory grinds to a halt, doesn't it? In the end.
Well, but we will have to outsource until we fix it. But yes, it's a very big problem.
I was going to ask, are new ones available to be purchased?
No. They've been trying very hard to do something. This is the pinnacle of cutting technology developed by Neumann, and the reason why they stopped is just because of CD technology.
You'd think there'd be like a modern equivalent of this now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, people start to wake up to the fact that vinyl is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So they start to invest in technology and trying to come up with different models. But it's not the electronic side of the machine that is difficult to replicate, it's the mechanical side that's difficult to replicate. And a lot of machines that they are selling now, the DC motor doesn't have anywhere near the torque that this machine has, and the precision of they have.
It must have a fantastic accuracy.
Yes, I mean we're talking about microns, so you can literally decide if you want to have a 50 or 55 micron grooves, and then it's not going to overcut. That means that the grooves they will never collide, and then it's because of what I said before, you have 4 channels. The preview helps the laser to understand what's coming, half a revolution away, and make sure that it's not going to. It's going to leave the space enough for the next groove to shoehorn into each other.
So part of this precision, is there any parts that actually wear out then?
Everything. Everything from the bearings to the lead screw to the DC motor to the glass platter that is underneath the metal platter to the cutting head, the suspension box. It's got silicone oil inside which sometimes get clogged up. The vacuum sometimes stops working in mid-cut, and you have to be very quick to stop everything because otherwise
you have to make new parts?
Yeah, I mean, I know somebody that got Henry attached to it. As an emergency. So when the Hoover stopped, they just got Henry and plug the prop at the back, I think. I always wonder where that is, but I know for sure that he cut it with a Hoover for 6 months. With a Henry, I think.
Like, how difficult, if anything does, like, wear out or whatever, how hard is it to get little tiny replacement bits for all this, for this type of machinery?
It's very difficult because people like the one that's servicing the machines, they bought pretty much all the old stock.
Yeah.
So because they need it. So it means there is not much available for everybody else.
So that could run out eventually.
Yes, so you need to come up with alternatives, and they do. But pretty much every card in there, they have a replacement that they designed. And then if you go in Lewis down in, he's got his own cards, he's developing a new cutting head. But
so what about the actual cutter itself? Are these in supply, or do you make them, or the actual cutter that cuts the groove and the pumps and all?
Oh, the stylers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stylers they're making, there is only one company. It's called Micropoint, right? And there is only one company that is doing lacquers, which is in Japan.
Yeah.
So it's like walking a tightrope really at the moment, until somebody else comes in and has got either the dash or the bravery to invest into a brand new plant to produce those, which are incredibly difficult to make.
There must be an American equivalent though, mustn't there? In the States there must be an equivalent of Neumann. Like they won't be using German lathes.
They did, but they had, no, you're right, it's called Scully. Scully rates that are good, but nowhere near as good as Neumann's, especially the VMS 80. But they're a beautiful looking thing to look at. and the other one was a Dutch one, which I forgot about, but it disappeared in the 60s. So really, the main two left in the 70s and the 80s were Scully's and Neumann's. But Neumann's was very widespread in the States as well. But it's definitely a beautiful piece of engineering.
The Germans are fabulous. Were Neumann's a sort of small family firm? Well, it was a person.
Hello!
You still talking?
Yeah.
Yes. I was literally turning the machines off. And yes, I feel like I don't know, like those museum guys. I feel a bit awkward. But yes, if you got any questions, it's like I said, it's a very basic principle. You convert analog, digital into analog into electricity, goes down the wire, and then it moves the needle accordingly. So that is the basic. How to put it in a way that resembles music in a very high fidelity fashion, that's completely different ball game. But yes, Germans, they were very, very good in this type of engineering, and Japanese, but Germans, you have to give it to them. And then when the wall fell, the company Georg Neumann, which was the owner of Neumann, went to, I think he stayed in East Germany, found another company called Microtech Gefell, and they were mainly doing microphones, because Neumann is very renowned, and not just for the lathe but for microphones as well. You find that any recording studios in the world has Neumann microphones, and they are probably the industry standard for vocals, like a U87, a U67, 149s, 49s, and then comes down, I think, to the technology developed by winding up coils. Yeah, because the cutting head really is a microphone inside that generates the signal, so you can preview what the lathe is doing. So it's all intertwined, really.
Excellent, thank you.
Oh, you're
Very interesting, yeah.
Any questions?
Can we come back and see it working?
You're more than welcome. But not tonight.
No, you gotta go home tonight.
Gotta go home.
Yeah.
Your dinner's in the dog.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm in the doghouse now.
Yes, you're in the dog.
Thank you very much.
Will you talk to these beautiful people that did this?
Basically, galvanic. Right,
And your metalwork is your side A and your side B, basically. So if we come here, we'll show you our lamp.
inside it?
Yeah.
No.
This is where our scientists hang out. You go. So Paul works on the presses now, but he was in galvanics last year. And he knows the process a lot better than
Yeah, I was in here right at the beginning, but I'm afraid the people that work in here are here on the night. Yeah. So do you want to show them upstairs?
No, we started doing it backwards.
We're starting halfway around.
We're good. Yeah, we're going from the bottom up.
Yeah, so basically, obviously, the lacquers get cut upstairs from the oil onto wax lacquer. And the lacquer, I don't know if you've got any. Yeah, here. So this is like on the lacquer. This gets made upstairs, which you haven't seen already. From there, these lacquers get put on the silver machine here. Oh, this is like this sort of spins round and goes across, and there's silver in solution that coats it and makes a direct copy, so the opposite grooves that are cut upstairs. And from there, we then make a copy in the electrolysis baths. So over here we have the pre-nickel bath, which then coats the lacquer with pre-nickel in here, which is like an electrolysis process. Not on. They're all empty. They're not on at the moment. She's obviously not here, so I can't really show you the process. Then from there, they then get put into a deposition bath, which then makes the copy. And from there, the copy is then extracted off and then formed out the back there.
Like you literally peel it off.
Yeah, you peel it off. Yeah. So
this process is for making the master.
So this, if we can, it's a pity we couldn't all go down together actually. So when the music is mastered and mixed, it gets cut into like an old school lacquer on a lathe.
But sorry, what I'm driving at, this is a process for making something that's going to make
yes, indeed, yes.
Right.
So that means we can keep the originals.
Yeah.
And then we make mothers and fathers and sons and daughters.
Yeah. Yeah. So they get cut into obviously the lacquers, and then they get silvered.
Yeah.
And then it's like a copy like the opposite made in the baths. And this is what comes out of the bath eventually, but that's before it's formed. They all get cleaned up and then they get formed out the bath there. They have to be centre holed, they have to make sure there's a machine that makes sure that that's exactly in the centre. And then they get formed and then made into a stamper, which is then what goes into the machines out there.
So that's your side A and your side B, isn't it?
Well, this will be one side,
yeah.
So it'll be, say, side A or the other one. I'm not sure I better put it where it was.
No. Yeah, I mean, all over. You can imagine it. It's been through this factory, yeah. Like the amount, like, it's strange actually, because you get records that you think will be dead popular, and then you get records that you barely recognise. People are clambering over themselves to get that one. It's strange. Yeah. Good.
So this is when it's actually being formed. So it's gone from that to this. There's a centre machine out here.
We'll have a quick look at this, okay? There's another step there.
So this is the centre machine. It's linked up to an iPad and a camera, and obviously it goes through a magnifying glass. You have to follow the grooves around to get the exact middle of the record, and then it gets centred by galvanics people. And then this is the sander. It sands the back of it to get it like smooth, so that it can fit perfectly on the press here. And that's when it gets formed into this shape to make that. And then once that's made and cleaned up, it's ready to go on the factory floor and be put in the press machines.
How many can we get from them?
The maximum would be 2,000. Maximum.
But we can make.
But then you make another one.
Yeah, so.
From the same line or
yeah, sorry, missed that basic bit. Yeah, so basically, we can make like sons off the mother. So the first thing we make is a mother, and then from there you make sons, and you can make 10 sons off a mother, and then use them as your stampers.
Yeah.
So this is
so each of them 10 will then do 2,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So you could do 20,000 with one mother.
So you keep all the original. Like you say that you want an original rolling stone. Theory is being tested to go back and get it. You know what I mean?
So we're pressing in the newspapers, so we'll have that.
Yeah, so we keep these. So say this, we've made this son, and only pressed 200 records or even 500. We keep them anyway for so long. But the artists can come back and have a repress at a later date. But if we have the mothers as well, we can make more presses off it. But there's no reason you can just leave this with 3 or 4 years and then use it again. It's just going to clean it up.
So they don't degrade.
No. They would if you kept pressing with them. So like, if we try to press 3,000, the centre bit would fall out, it just deteriorates over time in the press. Watch the pressure in the press machines over there.
Listen to every single record. And I work in the office, involved with all the dirty work really. And I was sat there one day and the record came on. I was like, oh, what's it? This is brilliant, this. So he let it on and I listened to it and I turned it on and listened to it again. I fell in love with it. I was like, oh. So I tried doing a bit of research. I couldn't find the band anywhere, online or anything. So eventually, I managed to pinpoint the lad who put the order in. I got hold of him. I said, here, look. I said, I really love this record. You're going to have to tell me if you're on tour or if you're coming to Middlesbrough anytime soon. I'd love to see you live. And he was like, oh no, it's just me and my mate in my bedroom. You know, I just wanted to fancy getting a record made. And it was my record of the year, but you can't go and see him. It's only 2 lads on the track. Yeah. Yeah, we'll have a quick glimpse behind the wall. There's a lot going on. We try to make it as neat as we can out there, but it still gets pretty hectic. But then our poor engineers, like we've got full-time engineers and the poor lads are non-stop. Like, it's not, you know, you get one machine running nice and sweet and then another one starts coughing, so you have to go and deal with that one, and then this one starts coughing, and then one in the middle packs up. Nothing ever seems to run totally smooth, you know, all at the same time.
Maintenance manager.
Oh yeah, we could do you here actually. We've got there's loads of gas out the back, and when we first opened, we get visitors from around the world, people from California, people from Scotland, people that want to open their own record pressing plant, come for a bit of advice, you know. One morning, about a year or so ago, I turned up to work and I was the first one here, which is unusual enough anyway. And when I got here, there was 2 blokes stood outside the front door. And straight, you know, 2 big strapping, good-looking fellas, and I thought, hold on a minute, they're not from Middlesbrough. You know, I could tell. And as I got close, he said, good day, mate. And I was like, oh, you're from Australia, are you? He said, yeah. He said, I hope you don't mind, but we've seen you online. And me and my son are thinking about buying one of these machines. And we'd like to open one in Queensland, I think we were, in Australia. He said, we've sort of just booked a flight and a hotel. Would you mind if we come in and have a look around? Anyway, they ended up staying for a good month. And they learned everything inside out. But when he walked in, he said, oh, so this is the machine, is it? This is the Allegra. I said, oh, yeah. He says, oh, I've just spent pretty much all my money on getting one of these. Like, he was like, I was like, all right, yeah. I said, I'll show you behind the wall and show you how it works. And he popped his head down the corner and he said, crikey, I've already sold my house. He couldn't believe how much went into it, you know, full blow. But he's going strong now. Him and his son just bought one machine. And they're sort of doing it from the ground up and they're flying out there. Our engineers have had a couple of trips out to Australia. Yeah, we've had it. I tell you what, we'll scoot back round this quiz that we've done. And this is all the artwork ready for when we start pressing jobs. So basically my job, I'm the proofreader, so when artists want to put their order in, you've got all your artwork for your album covers and your inserts and what have you. So all I have to do, unfortunately the one thing we don't do in-house is print, but we're hoping to eventually. So we send everything off to a printer, so all I have to do is make sure everything's in the template, make sure the spine lines up, make sure all the information doesn't get lost when it's cut out. And then the printer's just constantly, like, every day these turn up like, and all we do is sort them onto the shelves ready for when the records go out. And our pool packers spend all day packing them. They're in Kent, the ones we use. You know, we've used maybe 4 or 5 different companies, some local, and it's because we're manufacturing so quickly. There's very little room for, you know, we sort of hit the ground running, so we had to go with the reliable printers really. We would love to keep it local, but unfortunately,
Chris did make it.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, Chris, here we go. This is time.
Hi Chris.
Hi.
Thought you could make it. You missed the buffet.
We're just explaining explaining the galvanics there. We'll have a little quick look now. Advise people to not go over 20 minutes each side. So it's like what you can fit in 20 minutes really. If you've got one long track, that works. If you've got, say, 16 little tiny tracks,
with the break in between.
yeah, you can do. Like our sound engineer Alex, he gets mad requests where, like, sometimes people want the record to loop around all the way around without stopping. They don't want any marks. You know, like if you get like a mixed DJ, for instance, he sort of has loads of little tiny marks all over, so you can sort of pitch them out without stopping the record. Like Alex can explain it a lot better than me. I'm only the artwork guy.
Don't put yourself in.
I'm the looks, they're the brains. So, well, people want shrink wrapping. Some poor bloke has to stand at that shrink wrapper all day.
Can we just have a quick look at that again?
Sir? Staring up through the window. But when like I said, we sort of done the tour of it at the front really. So later on, once we go through our live room and everything, they see our music engineer. We've got a layer upstairs, so they hopefully, like band. Eventually, we want it all under one roof where the band comes in, right, goes into our live room for a week, whatever, you know, plays out their album. We can pipe it upstairs into our music studio, where our sound engineer can mix it, literally cut it into the lacquer, and then bring the lacquer down here into our galvanics, where our galvanics team turns them into. So this is it. This is the lacquer. I daren't touch it. I bet there is a spare one. At the end, when we see David again, I'll ask him to bring a spare one out because you can see it. You can literally see all the grooves.
So that's untouched.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's a brand new one. Chances are that'll have turned up today. We were waiting on it all. And then Emily uses this magic kit and her magic brain to form so that'll be our, so you can keep the lacquer and this will be our master, and then from that one you can make another run and another run and another run and another run, however many you might need.
Any number,
yeah, so that's your main one. It depends how big the run is, I suppose, how many they'd make in the first place. Not really sure. But then that gets formed in, so that'll be side A or side B. What's down there? It looks like a side B. That'll get formed into side B. Side A, obviously, opposite it. I'm going to put that back. Put more room there.
How often the vinyl sitting made now? Are they getting made more?
Do you know? So everyone calls it a vinyl revival or whatever, but it's not a case of like people going back and getting their old records remade. But it seems to be that every single band, doesn't matter how grassroots you are, is getting vinyl, yeah. And I mean, the sales of vinyl are still as popular as they were 5 years ago when it boomed.
I've grown up through vinyl.
Yeah.
My old stuff. Play CD.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? I think you either love it or you don't know much about it, isn't it?
I don't think you can beat it.
Yeah. Like,
so quality.
Oh yeah.
Miles CDs.
Like, the strangest thing is actually, so I work in the office most of the time, but we've got a good record player in the office that we can use, just to, the guys use it to check. We've got one in the soundproof booth over here, we've got one upstairs, and we've got one upstairs there, so there's 4 you can use, and they're all pretty good. So if I'm in the office, people bring in records, and I've been here 2 years and I've listened to so much new music. Like, my collection has grown and grown and grown, whether I like it or not, But the strangest thing is, when we're all together around the record player, everyone that works here is listening for the silence in between the songs. So when you put the needle on and nothing comes out, the speed is everyone like, yeah. Like, all the, you know, all the little pops and clicks, that comes over time. All of that, you know, that vinyl noise that you felt over, that comes from playing vinyl. You know what I mean? Right, we'll pile out this way. We'll open the machines. Live route, we'll come to that, we'll start doing it backwards, we'll have to see that at the end of the bridge. So the plan is, eventually, to get bands to come to the factory, go in the live room with the guitars and the drums and everything, and play the record live, and then we can pipe that upstairs to our sound engineer, who we'll meet at the end, and he can mix it and cut it. Then he puts it into a lacquer, like on an old school lathe, like proper lathe from back in the day, which we'll show you. And then that lacquer comes down the stairs and we take it to this department. So we'll sort of cut out the front, start at the back, and leather the front again.
As long as there isn't a test at the end.
So once we've done a lap, and they've done their lap, we'll sort of yin-yang around. Well, this is all our stampers of previous jobs, so everything's kept on file, you can go back and pick out new ones. All of the centre labels from people's records that are coming up, and all of the centre labels get pressed in under the pressure of the machines. So all of the labels, once they've been printed, literally have to go in an oven, and we literally have to bake the labels to withdraw all the moisture before you can put it in the machine. Otherwise, obviously they'll stick.
Are you only making the big ones then?
What do you mean?
The 33.
Do you know?
Not 45.
The dream is there. But of course, the only stage we're at the moment. Like the plan is, obviously, we want eventually we want 2 more machines here that take care of like anything. Like one of the most popular ones at the moment, the picture discs. People go mad for them, and we tried to do it, but we needed ever so slightly different machine parts. So things like that eventually will we'll stick with them. People design the centre labels and everything, then we put them in the oven to make them change colour and all sorts. Paul's getting his pyrotechnics, so he's already showed off because we'll have a little look at this machine. Probably better off go around that side. We'll have a look at this. Today, for the first time in a long time, we've got 4 machines running. None of them have been in the mood. Yeah. So, if you can remember the stampers that were formed in the galvanic side A and side B. Side A goes on the underside of there. Please, there's the other crew. Everyone wave at the other crew. Hello. Hello. So we've got side A and side B. Can you see the stampers there? Tons of pressure. If you look in this window, so the pressing green, using green vinyl. So the green vinyl gets put into the chute and heated up and squirted out like a tube of toothpaste. It comes out like a puck, like I can feel that it's still warm. They come out red hot.
You do a multi-coloured one on the picture. How the hell do you do that?
It's strange. It depends how bad you want it. So a lot of them get pre-mixed, which the lads prefer, and then some of them you have to literally stop every record, sprinkle a bit of colour in, or put a bit of that in. Yeah, and we use a lot of recycled flash, like all the bit that they cut off the end when they're finished. People like that laying in, so you have to lay it in, but obviously you have to stop the machines, before you put it all in. Yeah, the lads, the more complicated, the better the lads love it.
The longer it takes.
Yeah. We recycle as much as we can. We've got a big chopper on the back there, chops out the second mould, and then we literally grind up all of the old vinyl, and then we bring it back around. Oh yeah. I mean, like nowadays it's recycled. Bear with me, I'll get someone else to get me. So if we watch these buttons come across, it gets put into there. Side A and side B labels get attached there. Gets put into there, and then it gets swung back across. The excess gets put on. Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I don't know what the pressure is. Yeah. Bear with me. I'll get all these here.
That's all I say.
Down with John. Our resident lifesaver, John.